big welcome to each and every one of you. So we're genuinely thrilled that you can join us today, whether you're from the office or you're at home or somewhere in the clinic. It's really great to have everyone here. So today we're very excited to introduce to you something new and also fresh, and that is the new Sonic Z1 family of hearing aids, or Z1. So this is the newest product line from Sonic, and it's all about simplicity, reliability, and making great hearing accessible to more people. Basically, this is our newest basic hearing aids. And before we dive into the details, I will just take a moment to walk you through today's agenda so you know what to expect and how you can get the most out of this webinar. So here's what's coming up. We have a quick introduction to Sonic Z1, what it is and why it matters. We'll look at the technology highlights that makes Sonic Z1 stand out. We'll explore the styles, fitting levels, and hardware options, and of course, how to fit Z1 in Oasis Next, which is the fitting software. So if you're interested in fitting Z1 for your clients, then you have to download the new Oasis Next software. Of course, we will also talk about how you can choose the right Sonic Z1 model for the different users. And then finally, I'll be sharing and telling you what resources you will get after today, and we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. So if you have a question, write it down in a notebook, or you can also type it in the chat box. So Sonic Z1 is actually our new entry-level hearing aid family. But don't let that basic title fool you, because it's really built on the solid technology that, Demant is known for. And we really want to make sure that this technology is available for everyone, to make sure that everyday listening is even easier and enjoyable. And this hearing aid family, it is ideal for those who just want a straightforward solution that just works well, it sounds natural, and it's not too overwhelming in terms of the options. So no matter what style that your client prefers, there's a Sonic Z1 that fits. Whether they're looking for something a bit more smaller or something more powerful or custom made, we have that covered in the Sonic Z1 family. So as you can see in the picture, the complete Sonic Z1 family consists of two miniRITEs. So you have the miniRITE and TR, that's a rechargeable option. And then we have the two miniBTEs. Again, the one with zinc air batteries and the rechargeable lithium ion batteries. And of course, we have 5 custom styles that you see right there. And on the next slide, we'll be taking a closer look at what each style can offer. And we'll also highlight some of the differences in these features. But let's talk about that later, okay? So as you can see, Sonic Z1 is designed to support a very wide range of hearing needs, from mild to very severe hearing loss. So whether your client needs just a little boost or even more powerful amplification, there is a style that fits. And some styles also offer direct streaming with compatible phones, of course. And this feature is, of course, available in our miniRITE and miniBTE styles. And of course, it's also available in the custom style, so the ITC and half shell and full shell. Just make sure that you order the 2.4 gigahertz antenna to enable this streaming capability. And of course, for those who love the convenience of rechargeability, probably in your clinic, you are selling non-rechargeable devices. And I think if you want to offer a rechargeable option for a more reasonable, cheaper price, then this is really a good way to start your journey with our rechargeable products. So that's available for miniRITE and miniBTE. Of course, Sonic Z1 is available in 2 technology levels. As you can see here, we have the Sonic Z120 and the Z110. Of course, both models offer great sound quality, but Sonic Z120 comes with just a bit more extra features to give more flexibility and control for you as a hearing care professional. So here's a very quick look at what sets the higher Z120 apart compared to the lower Z110. The first thing is dynamic directionality. So the microphone pattern basically adjusts automatically across the frequency bands so that it would help the user focus on speech while still at the same time capturing the surrounding sounds. And then smart noise reduction, as you can see, Z120 gives 3 settings. You have medium, low, and off, while Z110 only offers on or off. And then for the transient noise reduction, so this feature, just as a reminder, it helps soften sudden, sharp sounds, and that is only available in Z120. And then when it comes to the program options, as you can see here, Z120 includes special listening programs, specifically the music experience and also the comfort in loud noise. And that's not available for Z110. So if your client basically needs a bit more customization or they spend more time in challenging listening environments, Z1 might be just the better, Z120 will be the better fit. So Sonic Z1 uses advanced sound processing to make speech clearer and listening more comfortable, of course. It's, as we all know, it's not just about making all sounds louder, right? We need to make sure that the sound is right. So that's why we have smart amplification. And basically, smart amplification includes 2 things. You have the broadband amplification, and you also have the 24-channel amplification. So these are 2 compression or amplification strategies. So the first one, broadband amplification, basically it's the kind of amplification that activates and reacts quickly when speech is detected, down to the very individual sound. So even softer sounds or speech words don't get lost. And then the 24-channel amplification, that's the second one. It fine-tunes the amplification even more across different frequencies, making sure that it reduces the amplification for background noise while keeping the speech intact. And this really matters because, real life listening, it's really messy. It's not always in a quiet place. And the way we amplify speech and the way we amplify noise, it's very important. So for example, if there's a sound of a coffee machine in the background in a cafe, you're talking to someone and this coffee machine noise is messing with your conversation. So we really need a different approach for each of these different kinds of sound signals. And that is why Sonic Z1 uses both time and frequency-based processing to tell the difference between these different sounds, so your clients can hear what they want to hear and not hear what they don't want to hear. And that is why we have two amplification strategies to optimize speech clarity, and at the same time, we also optimize listening comfort, even in noisy places. So dynamic directionality, it's only available in Z120. It's designed to basically help your clients stay focused on conversations, even in noisy environments. And it activates, and this is important, guys, it activates only when speech is present in noise. Okay? So it doesn't block out important environmental sounds unnecessarily. So when there's only background noise, in the park, you want to hear the birds, you want to hear the cars coming, dynamic directionality is not active. It's only there when speech in noise is detected. And when it comes to focusing on the conversation, dynamic directionality uses many microphone patterns across 24 frequency bands to reduce distracting noise from different directions. And it's smart enough to know where speech is coming from and gently lowers the noise around the speech. So that means that it doesn't affect the quality of the speech. Higher listening comfort in noise, that's possible because dynamic directionality works with high precision and it minimally impacts speech. So your clients can enjoy a clearer conversation without feeling cut off from the surroundings. So in that sense, it's a really good balance between focus on the conversation and environmental awareness. So of course, that doesn't mean that Z110 has a bad directionality. The default for Z110 is omnidirectional. That's a default. But if your client gets a Sonic Z110 and they still need to focus on the conversation in front, then you can still change and add a program 2 or a program 3 and then change the directionality from fixed omni to adaptive or fixed directionality in the software. So that's still an option. It's just not as automatic or as flexible. So what happens when directionality isn't enough? Because normally directionality is the first thing that activates to manage noise. So sometimes even the best microphone focus cannot fully clean up a noisy environment, and that's where smart noise reduction steps in automatically. So it kicks in when speech is surrounded by noise and helps reduce that noise without affecting the clarity of the conversation. And it works basically by analyzing the sound in 24 frequency bands with high precision. And they even look at other frequency bands to avoid creating these very low sound quality artifacts. So that this means that it can reduce unwanted noise that includes chattering or clinking of dishes, or going back to that example, the coffee machine, and keep speech natural and comfortable. And so, yeah, the result is basically smart noise reduction helps maintain and improve speech clarity with less listening effort. And overall, this really provides a great listening experience for your customers in a noisy settings. Now let's talk about feedback. Obviously, it's something we all want to avoid. And of course, if you have clients with severe hearing loss, feedback is more common, right? So smart Sonic Z1 uses this feedback canceller that basically combines two strategies to keep things more comfortable and quiet. In calm situations, for example, you're sitting in a meeting or you're talking to someone at home, Basically, it uses a masking signal to gently cancel out any sound leakage between the microphone and the speaker and cancels out feedback. But in more dynamic moments, so for example, when you put on a hat, when you touch your hearing aid, or when you wear glasses or pick up a phone, it adds high-speed estimator so that it reacts to these sudden movement changes to stop feedback before it is heard by the client. And the result here is it causes less annoyance caused by feedback, so there's more confidence in the hearing aid, and the family doesn't hear the feedback. That's important. And of course, it increases wearing comfort when there's no feedback throughout the day. And of course, there are so many ways we connect with people in our lives. And of course, sound, including sound from our phones, from our tablets, iPads, from our computers. They're very important in keeping in touch with the people around us. So Sonic Z1 makes those connections easier by working seamlessly with your client's smart devices. So if your client uses an iPhone or an iPad, they'll enjoy this made for iPhone features like direct streaming for calls or music when they're watching a video. And it also offers two-way audio for hands-free communication for iOS devices. Of course, Sonic Z1 also works with Android. So what does that mean? So for Android users, Sonic Z1 supports only direct audio streaming thanks to the ASHA protocol. So that means it definitely keeps them connected. It doesn't have two-way or hands-free communication, so that's important to know. But yeah, if you have Sonic Z1, at least it has that option for direct streaming for both iPhone and Android. Of course, if you are fitting Sonic Z1 for your customer, we have the Remote Link 2 app to make it easier than ever for users to adjust their hearing aids without people noticing. And to make sure that your client can still personalize the settings, and they can even do remote fitting with the Remote Link 2 app. And it's all about, yeah, the convenience, the confidence. They can see the status of their hearing aids, the battery level. They can change programs, volumes. They can even see if they lose the hearing aid, how close they are to the hearing aids, if it's on the floor or somewhere. And of course, it works with iPhone, iPad, and the Android phones. If your client is also using an Apple Watch, for example, they can control their hearing aids from their hands or their wrist. Of course, when paired with an iPhone. So that's the prerequisite. And Sonic Z1 offers two convenient chargers to suit different lifestyles. So you have the desk charger, that is this one. That's great for home use. It's very simple, compact, and perfect for the nightstand. And you also have the Charger Plus. So there's a built-in power bank there, which is ideal for traveling or you're busy. Then you need something to bring with you all the time. And this one can recharge the hearing aids up to 3 times without needing to be plugged in. So you can use it many times before the power bank runs out. And both of these chargers, they use inductive charging. A full day's charge takes around 3 hours for the miniRITE TR. And if you're talking about miniBTE TR style, it takes a bit longer. So that takes around 3.5 hours. And that's because for the miniBTR, it has a bigger battery. So it takes a bit longer to charge. So Sonic Z1 is really all about helping your clients enjoy more of life's moments clearly and comfortably. And it really starts with great sound quality. So our aim is always to deliver natural, easy to listen sound to make conversations more effortless. And of course, as you heard, there's a wide variety of hearing aid styles to choose from. I'll talk more about that later. So you can match the right device to the client's needs and preferences. And when it comes to connectivity, Sonic Z1 is made for iPhone. It also works with Android direct streaming, so the clients can stay connected with their phones, streaming calls, music, or even hands-free features. And for those who prefer the convenience of having a rechargeable hearing aid, both the miniRITE and the miniBTE offer a rechargeable option. So we've talked about the technology and the benefits of Sonic Z1. Let's just quickly look at the different styles, starting with the miniRITEs and the miniBTEs. So as you can see here, Sonic Z1 is available in 4 behind-the-ear styles with a choice of rechargeable and disposable zinc air battery styles. So we have the miniRITE, miniRITE R, miniBTE, and miniBTE TR. In terms of size, it's basically what you see in the screen. So they're very similar. That's why we call it the miniBTE. And now let's take a closer look at the miniRITE style in Sonic Z1. So both miniRITE models are rated IP68, meaning they're resistant to dust and water, and it's great for everyday use. Some people confuse that with not needing to clean the hearing aid or take care of the hearing aid. So this is really important for you guys because I've seen a lot of cases where there's corrosion, there's dirt, it's not clean. Just because we have an IP68 rating doesn't mean that we don't practice drying the hearing aid. So if you have a dehumidifier kit where you can put the hearing aid, put it, That way the hearing aid would last way longer if you just take care to keep it dry, keep it clean, so it would last for years without needing any repairs. And you know this, so we have the double push button for easy control. When you talk about the miniRITE style, it's actually used to turn the hearing aids on and off. So that's for the rechargeable option. So you can press this button 2-3 seconds and to turn it on or off. And of course, you can also change the program or the volume, and you can even mute the hearing aid, so that's possible. For the miniRITE style, it also has 2 buttons here. Of course, it has 2 buttons, but if you want to turn off the miniRITE, then of course you have to open the battery drawer. So that's one big difference. Okay. There we go. So the battery size of the miniRITE R, that's a rechargeable option, is a 312 plus lithium-ion battery. And for the miniRITE, it's a 312 zinc air battery, so that's a big difference. And again, if you want to turn it off, then just open the battery drawer to turn it off. Okay, so in this case, you can see that we have the miniFit receiver and earpieces, and that's available in 4 receivers, 60, 85, 100, and 105. The good news is whatever you're using for your other Sonic hearing instruments, it also uses the same domes and speakers, so that's one big plus. The only difference is for Sonic A1, so that's our newest family. That uses totally different speakers or receivers. And as you can see here, for the next one, it has 2.4 gigahertz and NFMI, same with other Sonic devices. Of course, we have telecoil, so that is an option. And in case you are in a country where there's a lot of public spaces with loop systems, then you can activate the telecoil program. Of course, you have to add that for your client to access. It's not automatic. So if your country's airport or theater uses telecoil, you can also ask the client to switch to the telecoil program if they're in that kind of environment and try it out. Okay, so that's all. And then we have the LED. So basically, this is where you will find the visual feedback for things like the power status or the battery level or whether it's charging or not. This is where you will find it all in the LED indicator. And of course, you guys already know all of this, but just so you know, for Sonic Z1, these are the options. Another thing I would like to add is for those who are fitting rechargeable hearing aids, be aware that the battery health and performance can vary depending on how the hearing aids are used. So if you have a client, they got the rechargeable devices, they come back to you after 1 year or 2 years, and the battery health on one side maybe is better than the other, that's normal because it really depends on whether they're streaming. It depends on the power of the hearing aid based on the hearing loss. It depends on the processing of each hearing aid. So the software will tell you if you need to change the rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Sonic Z1, miniRITE, and miniRITE-R are compatible with the previous older mini-fit receivers. So as you can see, we have 60, 85, 100, and 105, covering a wide range of hearing loss from very slight all the way to the more severe. I wouldn't go to profound, I would say. So more severe if you want to be on the safe side. And of course, it also offers a wide range of earpieces. You probably already know most of these guys. You get, of course, the silicone domes. You have the standard open base dome. You have the double base dome, and you have the power dome. And then the grip tips, that's made of a different material. It's made of this softer rubber for that extra stability so it sticks in the ear. And you have the light tips and the micromolds made of this material called Autotherm. They basically feel like acrylic, but the difference between Autotherm and acrylic is that Autotherm actually gets maybe 10 to 20% softer if it is contact with a warmer body temperature like the client's ears. So in that sense, it's a bit more comfortable because it adapts to the body temperature. And then the acrylic earpieces or molds are available in light tip, of course, the micro mold and the micro shell. And again, the biggest difference between these different domes is that this is more hollow, so the shell tends to move around the speaker. Might not be the most stable, but at least it's very light and very simple to produce, I guess. And then for the micro mold, I think that's a standard for most of you guys. The speaker is a bit more stable inside the micro mold, but dirt can still get in. And then for the microshell, this is basically the best option if you have clients with smaller ears. If you're okay with the speaker being embedded in the microshell, so that means you cannot change the speaker. If there's something wrong with the speaker, you have to send it back to the lab so that they can change the speaker with the microshell for you. That's one big difference also between the microshell and these two, because these two, you can change the speaker in the clinic. And then finally, we have the Power Flex mold. Basically, that's the most secure and effective solution for more severe hearing loss. Of course, the miniRITE and the miniRITE-R styles are available in the 5 colors that you see on the screen. Of course, the bases include metallic anthracite and metallic silver, and you have that usual two-toned look. And if we look right now at the miniBTE hardware, of course, they're also included in the Sonic Z1 family. Both of them, they come with telecoil, and the LED indicator is also there. In terms of the IP68 rating, it's a standard also for the miniBTE. And the single push button, it works the same as the miniRITE styles. One thing I also would like to point out is this single push button is if your client uses an compatible Apple phone, then they can actually use this button to answer by shortly pressing this button. And if they press longer, they can reject the call or end the call if they're using an Apple device. So that's pretty cool option. And then the miniBTE TR is powered by the rechargeable lithium-ion battery. As you can see, the size is a bit different. So for the rechargeable version, you have the size 13. And for the non-rechargeable miniBTE, you have the size 312. And that's really good. This size 13 battery allows the hearing aid to definitely last longer. We can expect it to last at least 4 to 5 years, that's for sure. And yeah, you have a longer battery lifetime. One big thing you should know is that for the miniRITE TR, you can change the lithium-ion battery, but for the miniBTE TR, it is sealed. The battery is sealed, so you cannot change it in the clinic. If you need to replace the battery, which I expect will not be a problem, you need to contact the lab so they can change it for you. You cannot do it on your own in the clinic. That's a very important difference. Of course, both styles support 2.4 gigahertz wireless and NFMi. So again, this makes sure that all of the features are working binaurally and they're able to connect to all of your smart devices. And finally, the miniBTEs can be fitted either with an ear hook, as you can see in this picture, or with a thin tube. And that really gives you more flexibility in the fitting based on what your client needs. So when it comes to the miniFit thin tube 0.9 millimeters and 1.3, they're actually available in 6 lengths. So you have the -1, you have the 0 length, you have the 1, 2, 3, 4 length. So that's a total of 6 different lengths for the miniFit thin tubes. They can be used, of course, with all compatible existing earpieces, as you can see here. So there's no changes. The only exception is if you're using a thin tube, you cannot use a light tip, you cannot use a microshell, and you cannot use a power flex mold. All right? Okay, what else? If you want to use the thin tube, by default, the miniBTE comes with a hook. So they're usually attached with this hook. So you would need to remove the hook and then change it with an adapter and attach a miniFit thin tube. So that's how you can do that. In terms of fitting range for the miniBTEs, you can see here that the ear hook provides way more power, covering up to maybe moderately severe hearing loss with the traditional tubing, ear hook, and so forth, and ear mold. While for the miniFit thin tubes, as you can see here, they cover roughly the same power in terms of regardless of how thick the diameter is, apparently. So yes, personally, I'm not a fan of thin tubes. I would opt more for the actual tube with the ear mold. But of course, that depends on what your client prefers. If they want something smaller and less noticeable, yeah, the thin tubes are the way to go. You also need to be aware that sometimes when they are used to the sound of mini BTE, sometimes it's hard to switch it to miniRITEs because the sound is somehow different when they're using a mini BTE or a miniRITE. So be careful when you're recommending. Generally, clients who are used to the sound from a mini BTE or a BTE plus power are more comfortable to keep that same style. And the same with miniRITEs. If they use miniRITEs and they're used to miniRITEs, then usually they don't like the sound coming from a BTE device. The colors available for the mini BTE, it's the same for the miniRITEs. And this is important, and in case you encounter this in your clinic, it's good to know. So when you're placing the ear hook of the mini BTE on the Sonic Z1, make sure that you get the right ear hook. And how you know that is because the damper, so that's the white thing, it's like a sponge, it's located here. That's how you know that it's for the mini BTE. So make sure you order the correct one. Because if you use a different ear hook for the Z1 mini BTE, like for example, a BTE plus power model, the output may actually be lower. So it may be around, I would say, 2 to 4 dB lower if you use the wrong ear hook. And you will not notice this in the software. The software will not tell you that you're using the wrong ear hook. So make sure if you are fitting Sonic Z1 mini BTE, use the right ear hook for a more accurate fitting. And when it comes to chargers, as you can see in this picture, we offer 4 chargers, 2 for the mini BTE and 2 for the miniRITE. So you have the desk charger and you have the travel charger. And because the reason why we have a separate charger for the mini BTE is because the hardware is actually different. And you can see that there's a gray faceplate there, so that's how you know it's actually for a mini BTE rechargeable style. For those who are asking, you can actually fit a miniRITE TR into a mini BTE charger, but it may charge slower and it may not charge up to 100%. So if you really want the best performance, make sure you get the dedicated miniRITE chargers for the miniRITE TR and the dedicated mini BTE chargers for the mini BTE TR. Okay, now let's talk about the customs. So I'm happy to tell you guys, Sonic Z1 is available in 5 of these styles. So you have the invisible in the canal, completely in the canal, you have the in the canal style, half shell, and the biggest one, full shell. So here's an overview of all of the hardware options available across the 5 styles. So on the left, you will see a list of all the hardware features, and across the top, you will see all the different styles available for Sonic Z1. So what this table basically shows is simple. As you add more hardware, you also gain more features, but the device also gets larger. So it's really all about finding the right balance between functionality and discretion for each client. What is a priority for your client? So the IIC is Sonic Z1's most smallest and discreet custom style. It uses a size 10 battery and it offers 2 receiver options, 75 and 90, to cover a wide range of hearing loss. It has 1 automatic program. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If your client does not need so much pressing the buttons, he just wants a hearing aid that works, then IIC could be a good choice. And to keep this size small, of course, the IIC needs to let go of some features. So it doesn't have 2.4 gigahertz. It doesn't have NFMI. The microphone is only one. But if the IIC is deep enough, that shouldn't be a problem. It cannot have a push button. It cannot have a volume wheel. And of course, a telecoil is impossible. So these features are not included, so we can maintain this very small size, just enough for the actual microchip. And the CIC is also a discrete option, but with a bit more flexibility compared to the IIC. So you can see here that the main difference between CIC and IIC is that CIC supports NFMI for binaural coordination. And when you add a push button, which is also available, you can change a volume, you can change a program, and you can also have tinnitus sound support. So that's way more features. And if that's important for your client, take note that CIC could be a good option. What it does not include is it does not have 2.4 gigahertz, so no connection to the phone. It also cannot have a volume wheel, so that's not an option. Yeah, it's all about really a balance. What features are important? Now let's look at the ITC. Whether it's functionality, connectivity, or comfort, this is your style. So this is actually a good compromise between functionality and style. If you have a client who has more severe hearing loss, ITC is definitely the smallest size that can offer 100 receiver. So that's perfect. So this is a good option when you have someone with more moderately severe hearing loss. And one of the standout features is that ITC has NFMI and 2.4 gigahertz. So that allows the user or the client to use the app to control the program and the volume. It allows them to answer phone calls and hear the sound directly to their hearing aid. So in that sense, that's a huge difference in the quality of life for your customers who needs to have that streaming option. A couple of things that you probably already know, but for those who don't, NFMI is actually automatic, so it's there by default. You don't need to request for it, it's always there. 2.4 is something that is optional, but it's available, so that's great. But if you want 2.4 gigahertz, you cannot have telecoil. And if you want telecoil, then you cannot have 2.4 gigahertz. So they cannot be there at the same time. And basically, it's all about the sound quality because both have antennas. And if you combine two antennas in a small device, it can actually lead to interference, especially with the telecoil program. Telecoil is basically more analog and more sensitive to noise. So to make sure that we provide the best listening experience, you can either only have 2.4 gigahertz or telecoil. Now, if we talk about the half shell, basically it's a great option for clients who want a bit more ease and comfort in terms of handling the hearing aid. Because it's a bit bigger in terms of the size, the half shell is really good for those with dexterity issues. You know, they're not very good with their hands. So it's easier to insert, to remove, to adjust, and to make it more practical without sacrificing the performance. Of course, in terms of the power, it's the same as ITC, so that's good. And yeah, feature-wise, it's actually the same as the ITC. So your client still can get access to wireless connectivity and app control, same as the ITC. And let's wrap up with a final style, so that would be the full shell. That's the largest option, as you can see in the picture, and it's generally ideal for those who are used to this style, who has been using this style. They want it very big so they can hold it easier and adjust it easier. So it's more about the tactile functionality and we have this option available. So for the IIC and the CIC, you can see that we have two fitting levels, 75 and 90. And for the ITC half shell and full shell, we have an extra 100 fitting level to cover even a wider range of hearing loss, all the way up to severe hearing loss. Sonic Z1 offers 5 faceplate and shell colors. So these are the colors available for both the shell and the faceplate, and it's designed to blend in naturally with the skin tone. You can see here the different colors available, and in case your lab offers this option, the shell can also be available in transparent color. It can also be available in transparent red and transparent blue. Not the faceplate, okay? Only the shell for the red, blue, and transparent options. So this is really a good option in case your client is confused what is right, what is left, or if the client has a caretaker, it might be good to have a different color for a different hearing aid. So from a practical standpoint, handling and fitting the Sonic Z1 is similar to Sonic A1. So they use the Oasis Next software. When it comes to the actual hardware, Sonic Z1, it's also compatible with the miniFIT receivers and the domes, and it works the same with most of the other hardware that you already use in your clinic. As I mentioned before, fitting and programming is done through Oasis Next. So that gives you access to all of the features that you're probably aware of, like the fitting assistant, all the personalization. You would find that there's a lot of similarities between the ExpressFit Pro software and also Oasis Next. They just look a bit different. You also have the flexibility when it comes to programming. Either you use the wireless or the wired programming interface. And for added convenience, remote fitting is also available. So you can support your clients even when they're not there with you in the clinic. So with remote fitting, you can connect with your clients for a follow-up appointment and also to make regular adjustments. This is only more for special clients, I would say. It's not for all. And it's always nice to get an excuse to invite them over physically, right? But if your client really needs that long distance touch point, or they need to talk to you and have their hearing aids adjusted and they're not there and they cannot be with you in the clinic, then this is something that you can try. If you want to have an account for remote fitting, because you need to have an account first, I would advise that you talk to your manager, and your manager can talk to the regional sales director responsible so they can give you access to have your own account so you can start using remote fitting. All right? So that's the magic. I mean, one beautiful situation I can definitely imagine where remote fitting is really useful is that if your client keeps on complaining about a specific environment that they're struggling in. So for example, they tell you, it is so hard to listen to my wife when I'm watching TV in the living room. Or it can be a noisy restaurant or a classroom or, in the church, anywhere else. You can actually connect to them in real time with the app, and you can make the adjustments in real time in that specific situation or place. And it's far better than just doing the adjustments in the clinic. You don't know if your adjustment works or it helps, and then maybe they come back to you because the problem is not solved. So this is really a good example of how you can use remote fitting, because you're trying to adjust the hearing aids in the real world, and you can fine tune the hearing aids better. And of course, beyond the clinical benefits, remote fitting really helps meet the expectations of today's hearing aid consumers. they expect more service and more support from you, if they're buying hearing aids from you. And this is one way you can definitely be different from your competitors, to provide this flexible, personalized care by offering remote fitting. So the programming options, depending on the style, Sonic Z1 can be programmed wirelessly with NOAA Link Wireless 2, and it can also be programmed cabled. Of course, please remember that your hearing device needs to have 2.4 gigahertz in order to be able to be programmed by the NOAA Link Wireless. And this is what I'm talking about. So for models with 2.4 gigahertz, NOAA Link Wireless 2 is the recommended tool. It's the industry standard, it's fast, it's stable, there's less issues in terms of Bluetooth connectivity, so this is our recommendation. And for models that doesn't have 2.4 gigahertz, so for example, you have an IIC or a CIC, then that is where we can recommend the HiPro 2. Of course, you need the cables, you need to make sure that you have the adapter, Flex Connect Mini or programming adapter mini, depending on whether it's IIC or CIC, and that's what we have available. The Sonic Z1 comes in 2 performance levels, as I mentioned earlier, giving this great flexibility to match the right technology to the lifestyle of your client and what they need in their daily life. And of course, both levels, they offer a solid performance. And despite that, you still need to be aware that there are still differences, and that will help you guide what you recommend to your client. So let's take a look at what sets these 2 levels apart. So choosing between a Sonic Z120, that's the higher level, and Sonic Z110, that's lower. Let's try to make it simple, okay? So both models offer this really great quality, sound quality, and it also includes the features. It has both have smart noise reduction and feedback canceller. And you can see here that they're also compatible with iPhones. So that includes one-way direct streaming and two-way hands-free communication. That's the good news. But as you can see, if you go with Sonic Z110, you can see that dynamic directionality and transient noise reduction aren't included. You have only 12 fitting bands instead of the 14 for the Sonic Z120. So that affects how you adjust the hearing aids in the software because you have less options. If you have a client with a very special audiogram and you really need to adjust the amplification frequency by frequency, then it would matter this having more options to adjust. And of course, you can see here that Sonic Z110 also does not have the music experience program. And I just want to remind you guys, the music experience program is really amazing because so many things are happening behind the scenes. If you add a music experience program, so that's the newest algorithm that we made to listen to, live performances and even streamed sound. It has a better MPO. It has compression and frequency range adapted for sound quality. All of these settings are included by just adding a music experience program. So again, that's a big difference. And then when you talk about the custom styles, the difference is even bigger because Sonic Z1 lacks features like dual microphones, and that affects directionality. 2.4 gigahertz is also not available, so that means there's no more connection to even the iPhone. And there's no tinnitus sound support, and you cannot access programs, so that could also be one thing to consider when recommending which model to get. You have to think about the client's lifestyle, their listening environments, and expectations. Yeah, And having this conversation with your client is important because if they have a say in what style they want and what feature is important for them, then they feel better about, the purchase that they make with you in your clinic. And what happens if you actually compare, and let's say you have two options, Sonic A1 or Sonic Z1. So I added the basic levels here, Sonic Z120 and Sonic A140. And you can see that these are the features that make Sonic A140 stand out. You have the smart noise reduction, and it has better machine learning. It has 2.0. So it means that it can accurately separate speech much better from noise compared with the machine learning we have from Sonic Z120. It offers a rich sound, so it has expanded frequency bandwidth all the way down to 80 hertz compared to the 200 hertz in Z120. And this definitely adds more depth to the listening experience. Sonic A140 also has the newer, more updated wind contact noise protector. So this kicks in and works really early in the processing sound chain. And what it basically does is it provides a better noise and soft contact reduction, while at the same time still maintaining better speech detection. So you can have a proper conversation in these not so ideal situations. And then finally, the big difference is the transient noise reduction. So A140 actually uses a faster, more precise algorithms to handle sudden sounds. And that includes soft sudden sounds and loud sudden sounds. Very big difference. Yeah, you can see here for Sonic Z120 that the transient noise reduction only works when there's a very loud sudden sound. Yeah. So if your client is ready for a more refined listening experience, especially in dynamic or noisy environments, then I think A140 offers huge, big improvements compared to the Z120. And if we look at the other options, rechargeability is available for both. The big difference is the type of rechargeability. So for A1, it's contact charging, and for Z1, it's inductive charging. Big difference between the two is that inductive charging is a bit slower. Sometimes it might not be as reliable as the contact charging. And if you look at the chargers of Sonic A1, the fact that it uses contact charging allows the charger to be way smaller compared to the chargers that you find with Sonic A1. Available styles for Sonic A1, that's miniRITE, rechargeable, the IIC and CIC, whereas this is where Sonic Z1 wins because it has way more styles, including the rechargeable and non-rechargeable miniRITE and miniBTE, plus ITC and half shell, full shell. Connectivity-wise, if your client has an Android phone, Sonic A1 is definitely a better option because it allows two-way streaming with Android, and it also supports Bluetooth LE audio. And this is really the future. Most phones are adding Bluetooth LE audio. Most new phones have Bluetooth LE audio, and then in the future we have Auracast. So this is future proof in terms of connectivity. That would be Sonic A1. Okay, so we're almost done with the webinar. Time to open up for questions. I saw someone write a question earlier. If there's anything else you would like to clarify, what are the Sonic Z1 features? What are the connectivity options? How Sonic A1 compares to other Sonic families? This is a good time to ask. I'll try to answer my best, but if not, I'll make sure to follow up. In the meantime, here is just a quick note on what you will receive after today's session. So I will be sending out a follow-up email that includes a printout of today's presentation. I'll also include the technical data sheets in the IFU for the Sonic Z1 if you're curious to know more about that. I will also add a PDF. So I just made this for you guys so you can look at that. And basically it compares the basic levels for Sonic A1, for Sonic Z1, and for Enchant SE, in case you're curious. And I will also give you commonly and frequently asked questions regarding this new Oasis Next software. Okay. Yep. Okay, guys, you know the drill. Get your phone ready. If you want your own training certificate after attending today's webinar, or if you're watching this from a recording, make sure that you scan this QR code. And after giving me the feedback, make sure that you include your complete name. You need to type it in. So if your name is Christina Kreuchi, you have to type exactly the name that you want to see in your training certificate. Some of you forget to add your email. So if you don't include your email, I cannot send it to you. So write your complete name, write your correct email, and then you can get your training certificate. Okay, guys? All right. So that one question from Kellis was answered. Thank you, Christina. Yeah. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. It's always a pleasure sharing new things with you, including the new Sonic A1 family. And I hope you're walking away with new insights and tools that would help you and your clients. So until next time, take care. Goodbye.